In 2015, a couple was walking along a shore on a German island and they came across a bottle that looked like it had something in it. When they opened the bottle, they pulled out a postcard that looked like this. Postcard was from the Marine Biological Association of Britain, and it said that if you returned this postcard to them, they would send you a 1 shilling reward for doing so. 1 shilling doesn't sound like much in 2015, but when the bottle was thrown in the North Sea in about 1904 or 1906, that would have been a good reward. You see, the Marine Biological Society went out in those years and threw 1,000 bottles into the North Sea and weighted them just so that they would float above the bottom of the ocean floor. And they were trying to test the currents of the ocean and where things went. Most of the bottles were recovered and sent back home within a few years. This one took 108 years to make its way back home. 108 years to get a message across. That's pretty impressive. And in fact, it set the Guinness Book of World Record at the time for the longest wait between throwing a bottle in the ocean and getting a return from someone finding it. 108 years to get a message. That's pretty impressive. The Hebrew writer, when he starts writing in the book of Hebrews, he says that 108 years is a good long time to be waiting for a message to be received. But the Hebrew writer reminds us that God's been waiting much longer than that. In fact, he's been trying to reach us for a long, long time. Here's what he says. In the first chapter, the first few verses of Hebrews, he says, "In the past, God spoke to our forefathers through the prophets. God sent messengers. God sent people to tell what he wanted done, to make a connection between him and others." He said in the past, that's the way God did it. He spoke to our forefathers through the prophets at many times and in various ways. But in these last days, he's spoken to us by his Son. God had tried to make connection through the prophets and through others, and then finally he just decided, you know what, we're going to send the Son. We're going to send my Son to represent me and tell others about me. And so the Hebrew writer goes on to say that the Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being. The Bible claims that Jesus is the exact representation of God. If you want to know who God is, look at Jesus. If you want to know what God would do if he were here, look at what Jesus did when he was here. If you want to know whether God loves you or not, look at Jesus. Look at the cross. Look at what happened. God has been trying for years and years to get his message across to his people. Have we heard it yet? For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son. God loves you. That's a message you need to hear.